What's up, everybody? Matt Kajeski here, back again with the Odd Shopper channel. And today we're talking some college basketball bets ahead of January the 11th. It is Wednesday. We have a bunch of marquee matchups on deck. Before we get started, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. We're also brought to you today by DraftKings Sportsbook, and they have a no-brainer offer that is not going to be around forever. In fact, it ends on February 12th, so you want to take advantage of this as soon as possible. What you're going to do, head over to DraftKings Sportsbook or just click the link in the video description below. Deposit at least $5 into your DraftKings Sportsbook account, then make a $5 wager on anything you want. It could be one of these bets. I personally would recommend one of these bets in the video college basketball, more my style. But regardless, if the bet wins or loses, you're turning that $5 into $200. It will be paid out instantly in free bets for you to use on DraftKings Sportsbook. Again, minimum $5 deposit, $5 wager, and bets expire 7 days after being awarded. But check that out. No-brainer offer for you guys. Limited time as well. All right, we're going to give you 3 plays as well in college basketball again today. Diving into a lot of games, and we'll be betting plenty more than this, so make sure to check out our Discord or Insider Access if you'd like access to more of my picks, Ben's picks, anyone else doing college sports, pro sports, it is available to you. But we're going to kick things off with Indiana taking on Penn State. Right now, we've got Indiana as a 2.5-point underdog, which I think is a premium buy low spot for an Indiana team, which, I mean, if you've watched any of their recent games, they've just blown 2 of them in spectacular fashion, and it hasn't been pretty. This team is dealing with one big injury. It's to Race Thompson. They haven't had Xavier Johnson in a while either here, but Race, I think, is a little more impactful to this game. Really, when you're talking about games against Penn State, can teams body them in the post? Because Penn State, they're not a big team whatsoever. Actually, they're one of the smaller teams in the country. And Indiana typically is dealing with a lot of size on their roster, but losing Race Thompson, I do think, is important here. But really, let's start with the Penn State side. They have 2 quality wins all season, in my opinion. They beat Illinois, which is a solid win, but Illinois has been very streaky, dealing with a little bit of turmoil in the program, and they also shot 44%. Not as bad as it could have been, but not great either. And then they beat Iowa in a track meet, and we know Iowa has a lot of struggles defending. And again, this Penn State team is 341 in effective height. Now, looking at Indiana's roster, they're 148th in effective height. They don't have Race Thompson. They don't have Xavier Johnson, but they still have Trace Jackson Davis. He's 6'9". Miller Kopp, he's 6'8". Even a player like Jalen Hood-Schifino, 6'6". So you're talking about a lot of height on this Indiana roster. And then Penn State's been shooting really well this year. They're 10th in three-point attempts. They're 18th in three-point percentage. Indiana is decent at defending the three. They're 145th here. But we've seen a lot of positive regression from some of these shooters, especially Pickett. His three-point percentage is up nearly 2%. Lundy's is up. Miles Dredd, he's been a good shooter the whole time. And Indiana is a good shooting team as well, which is why I don't think Penn State can run away from them just from a pure shooting perspective. Indiana doesn't shoot as many threes. They're actually 248th in three-point attempts, but they rank 38th in three-point percentage. They've been completely fine shooting the ball here. The one question I do have with Penn State is rebounding, and you probably gathered this with the height. If Indiana can shoot with them, and maybe even if they can't, can we just get Indiana to attack the offensive glass a little bit more than what they've been doing this season and create those second chance opportunities? That's an amazing way to exploit this height advantage they're going to have. And you just look at raw rebounding for both of these teams. Indiana's 92nd and Penn State is 184th. Penn State's actually been much better in rebounding than I would have anticipated for a team which ranks outside the top 340 in effective height. But overall, even just raw efficiency metrics, you have Indiana 20th in offensive efficiency, Penn State 28th. Defense, you have Indiana 46th, you have Penn State 125th. So even with the Race Thompson injury, I'm going to take Indiana as a dog here, plus 2.5 in a buy low spot. We're going to continue with the dogs and move over to the Big East. Bunch of great Big East games tonight. And we're going to talk Creighton versus Xavier. I think this is the premier buy low spot for Creighton and maybe the premier sell high spot for Xavier. And we'll dive into why. Creighton's had a pretty rough go of it to start the year after being widely ranked inside the top 10 and sometimes even the top 5 heading into the season by a lot of preseason polls. But looking at their schedule, their body of work, they played a stretch of the year without Ryan Kalkbrenner. Getting him back has been huge. That'll be very big in this matchup against Xavier, who plays with a lot of size. And then Creighton had that horrific stretch where they lost, 6-7 games in a row. But here's who those games were against. Arizona, they lost by 2 points. That's the number 11 Ken Pom team in the country. Texas, they lost by 5 points. Think what you will of Texas and the disaster they've had to start the year, but they're the number 8 Ken Pom team in the country. Lost to Nebraska. Well, they're actually 92nd in the country. BYU, 75th. Arizona State lost by 2, 63rd. Marquette, they're 15th. They just lost to UConn, who's the number 3 team in the country. But if you actually look at shot quality, great statistical provider, actually grading the shots that every team takes on the floor with a premium set towards 3 points and baskets around the rim. They analytically profile every single game and predict the outcome based on what happened on the floor. The shot quality score actually had Creighton beating UConn 80-77 and gave them a 60% chance of winning that game based on what happened on the floor. So what does all this mean? Well, Creighton's been playing injured without Kalkbrenner for some of the year. Every single one of their losses is against a Ken Pom top 100 team, a lot of them by single digits. In some of these games, including the UConn game, number 3 team in the country per Ken Pom, it's a game that Creighton actually should have won. Now, what has Xavier done this year? They've been a very good team. They actually kind of have a body of work that is almost the exact opposite. You look at some of Xavier's most recent wins, they had a shot quality score of 74-84 in their most recent game, a game that they should have lost. And then against UConn, they're another game, which I think is really good to look at here because you can kind of counteract this with Creighton, who should have beat UConn per shot quality. You have Xavier beating UConn, but UConn actually wins the game 83-73 per shot quality, 79-74. And Xavier only had a 36% chance of winning that game. So it's essentially the exact opposite across the board for these teams looking at their body of work. You have Xavier wildly overachieving in some of these games and Creighton wildly underachieving. So how do they match up? Well, first and foremost, you have 2 very good offensive teams, especially in terms of efficiency. Xavier's 17th, Creighton is 48th. Defense is a different story. Xavier ranks 137th in defensive efficiency, and they're particularly bad at 3-point defense beyond the arc. They rank 315th in defending perimeter shots. Well, that's kind of Creighton's bread and butter. They're 35th in 3-point attempts. They're 76th in 3-point percentage, top 100 in both. And when Xavier does give up points inside, Creighton can score there as well. They're 27th in 2-point percentage. So getting 3 points here, I think, is completely fine. You look at the size advantage Xavier has against a lot of teams, 17th in effective height. Well, Creighton's 32nd, so I don't think that is a major advantage as well here. Comes down to shooting for me. Creighton due for some positive regression. Xavier due for some negative regression. The one thing I'll say if you're betting this is I'm seeing this juice towards Xavier. If you wait, you might get a 3.5. I'm fine with the 3. I'm going to take the 3. If I see 3.5, I'm going to bet it again. But just to be cognizant, I think you might get you might get a Creighton plus 3.5 if you wait on this. Last game we'll talk about, we'll head over to the Big 12. Another team I think we're buying low on is Baylor. After their most recent stretch of games, notoriously 0-3 in conference play, they get West Virginia. Biggest concern for me is they're heading on the road. But West Virginia has been a team I've been looking to sell since their strong stretch to the beginning of the year. You look at their losses, Purdue, Xavier, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Kansas. There's no shame in that. But you look at their wins, I do have some questions with their wins. I think the best victory they have is against Florida, who they demolished. But Colin Castleton played 18 minutes in that game due to foul trouble. West Virginia ended up shooting 26 free throws in that game. Just ridiculous foul trouble Florida got in. They have a couple of decent wins here as well, like Pittsburgh and UAB, I think are good wins. Those are both top 100 wins. But I still don't think the body of work that West Virginia has currently holds a candle to what Baylor's played and what Baylor's done. Baylor has, again, 3 straight losses in conference play: Iowa State, TCU, and Kansas State. A couple things really stand out here. Per shot quality, Baylor actually should have been the victor in the Kansas State game. There was a 2-point loss. In the Iowa State game, that was actually a 15-point loss. And in that game, Baylor had a 61% chance of beating Iowa State. Shot quality score of 68-65, but Iowa State ends up getting the win through some significant positive variance in the shooting department. And then their other loss in conference play was a 1-point loss to TCU. That was also the first game they had LJ Cryer back, who's now back from injury. If you look to the Iowa State game, Cryer didn't play, and they've been injured through portions of this year. Now Baylor is entering this contest fully healthy. Cryer's played 2 games with 30-plus minutes in a row, and you have a West Virginia team we're looking to sell. As far as the stylistics in the game, both teams, they're actually pretty similar overall. Baylor 23rd in offensive efficiency, West Virginia 29th. Defensive efficiency, Baylor 73rd, West Virginia 60th. But I do think there are gaps in the West Virginia defense that Baylor can exploit, particularly on the interior. West Virginia 145th in interior defense. Baylor efficient scoring everywhere. They're actually 32nd in 2-point efficiency and 79th in 3-point efficiency. And this team takes a ton of threes. Baylor should have a little bit of size advantages here. This team rebounds 81st in the country, West Virginia 132nd. And shooting, this is the biggest one. West Virginia does not have the same success shooting that Baylor does this year. That extends everywhere from the interior 3-point percentage all the way down to free throws. You have a better shooting team, better shot quality team in Baylor here. Buying them off the 3 losses. Biggest concern for me, again, is where they're playing. Facing West Virginia at home is no joke, but we'll take Baylor here. The better team overall in my eyes. +1 for the line, I think, is completely fine. But that'll do it for us today. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know in the comment section what you think. Would love to hear about any other games that we have tonight. I know Marquette's playing UConn, a huge game there. Bama, Arkansas, another huge game. Let me know what you think of the board. And if you'd like to reach out on Twitter, I'm available at Matt_Gajeski. Otherwise, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you again next time, and good luck.